It seems like just about every old inn up on the East Coast claims that George Washington once stayed there. Well, the owners of the newly refurbished Mansion Inn in Memphis you're about to visit won't claim that. However, 3 U.S. presidents did stay there in the 19th century. The fabled story behind the Beale Street landmark we're going to visit is almost as fascinating as its eventual transformation. Just down Beale Street, you'll find an old home that sung its share of the blues over the years, as innkeeper Gina Prater explains.
Everyone thought that it would fall in. It looked like it was in complete demise. Sometime in the 70s, Hunt Phelan moved in. He was a recluse and a hoarder. He was a collector of Civil War memorabilia, and he logged it all. So it was as if he was creating his own museum, but he just floor to ceiling had things piled. Just dusty and dingy and dirty.
And depressing to think of possibly losing this antebellum mansion until a relative saved the day.
Bill Day is the nephew to Hunt Phelan, and he came in, tried to organize everything and created a museum. So he partnered with Graceland Enterprises, and they came in with about $1 million. They did all the murals, redid the murals on the ceilings, replicated the wallpaper, replicated the curtains, and created what we have today.
And what we have today is a priceless reminder of Memphis' storied past, the inn at Hunt Phelan.
Well, the house was designed by Mr. Mills, who also helped design the U.S. Treasury, the White House, and the Washington Monument. The walls are 5 bricks deep. It was built between 1828 and 1832, but the Hunt family bought the house. When they moved in, it was a simple 2-column front porch. They actually replaced those 2 columns with 4 Greek Revival giant iron columns. They wanted to have a big presence on Beale Street.
The Hunt family's presence was certainly felt on Beale and across the South, but it was soon overshadowed by the Union occupation during the Civil War.
They were politically connected, and when the Battle of Memphis occurred, General Grant decided to take this house. General Grant occupied this house for about 10 days. He planned the Battle of Vicksburg in our library. After the Battle of Vicksburg was planned, the house turned into a hospital, serviced about 1,500 troops here on the property. After that, it became one of the state's first freedmen bureaus, and we had one of 2 freedmen schools, freed slave schools, on the back of our property.
Although unconditional surrender Grant took over the house, the U.S. stood for unusually sympathetic as far as Mrs. Hunt was concerned.
As a generous offer, he offered Mrs. Hunt a boxcar to get her valuables out of the house, because the Union troops were notorious for stealing or burning things in these houses that they took. So she took off on a boxcar. He actually gave her a guard. She was almost robbed, and he gave her one of his soldiers to guard her on this car. He thought enough either of the house or of the Hunts to not allow his troops to wear their boots on the floor. It's inlay parquet. It's still original to this day.
The staircase apparently didn't enjoy the same protection, made evident by scuff marks from Union Army boots. Unfortunately for the Hunt family, those scratches were about all that was left by the federal troops.
A year after the war was over, they petitioned to Andrew Johnson to get their house back. They got their house back, and it took 20 years for reparations. When they came back to the house, there was nothing left. Every doorknob, every mantle, every light fixture except for one had been taken.
What couldn't be taken was Hunt Phelan's place in history.
We've had 4 presidents stay here. We've had Andrew Jackson, who's a Tennessean, Andrew Johnson, who's a Tennessean, Jefferson Davis, he and his wife were frequent visitors and friends of the Hunts, and then Ulysses S. Grant.
While Grant was certainly an unwelcome guest in 1862,
welcome to the Inn at Hunt Phelan.
Today, folks are welcome from all over to enjoy this beautifully restored restaurant and B&B.
When the Hunts lived here, they would have their guests come in, and often they would have big parties, and it would be too large a dinner party to have just in the dining room, so they would put tables down the middle of the hall. To your right is a parlor, and they had lots of low sofas, so all of the women in their big dresses would sit and visit in the parlor, and the men would visit in the library. The Admiral's Suite is at the top of the stairs. It's red striped, it's very dark, it's very masculine. It's where Jefferson Davis and his wife used to like to stay. It was actually Mrs. Hunt's room. Across the hall is the Magnolia. It was the nursery. If you go through the hall, there is a master suite with a bathroom, a dressing area, a big bedroom with 4-poster bed, and a sitting area. And then just off that is a smaller room that creates a lovely suite. And then over the kitchen is the servants' quarters, or what we call the chef suite now.
Speaking of chefs, Hunt Phelan has one with the talent to turn the Bluff City into the Big Easy, I guarantee.
We're prominently a fish and steak restaurant, lots of Cajun spice, a little bit of Creole, shrimp. What we're famous for is Crab Justine. There was another restaurant here in town called Justine's. And Justine's was a place that you went for a special occasion. And that was the feeling they wanted this house to have.
Rumor has it that some of those feelings could be downright supernatural.
We are known to have some spirits that haunt the house. There was a servant left behind to manage the house while the Hunts were gone away for the war. His name was Nathaniel, and apparently he buried what treasure she didn't get to take with her. So folklore has it that when the moon is full, down on the front of the property, he will show you where the buried treasure is. We actually have a housekeeper that walks into the rooms and she says, "I'm just here to clean."
While you're not likely to find the buried treasure, you're sure to enjoy the historic treasure that is the Inn at Hunt Phelan.